Thank you for joining me on the last 48. This season, I will be taking you through my journey with CAH, congenital adrenal hyperplasia, and how I believe your gender has nothing to do with your sexuality. On January 18th, 2023, I walked out of the care of UCLA's hospital. No more routine checkups by the nurses at 1 in the morning or being woken up at 7 a.m. to draw my blood. Then get reminded to order my food before my medication arrived at 8 in the morning. I had grown accustomed to the nurse's rhythm every time I had surgery, though this surgery was different. This would be the last surgery I'm ever going to need for my condition, a condition that is very unusual and rare. Glad to be leaving. Got a little stale in there, yet I was frightened by the idea that me and this medication didn't get along well. I know how this is going to go. This was what Dr. Brazel was warning me about when I was a child. Every doctor's visit, she would end every session with, "If you don't take your medication, kiddo, you're gonna die." "We're all gonna die," I answered in my head, but my mouth said, "Okay," knowing I had no plans on taking that shit. I was born with 21 hydroxylase salt wasting. My DNA lacks an enzyme necessary to produce cortisol, and human beings cannot live without cortisol. To survive, I've had to take corticosteroids every day from my birth until my death. And no, I didn't always follow that regimen. I didn't like the way it made me feel on the inside. And no, I didn't understand the effects on my body by not taking the medication. No doctor could explain that to me, and neither was I curious to know what was the matter with me because I didn't think anything was wrong with me. I knew I was different, but I never saw that as being sick or ill. I just noticed all the pimples on my face. And my brother telling me, "You don't need Oxy 10, you need Oxy 10,000." When I'm 4 and 5 years old, my face is looking like my cousins' faces who are in high school. But all my cousins who are the same age as me or around my age, their skin is clear. Well, lucky for me, by the time I got to high school, I didn't have pimples. None whatsoever. Clean face. But don't fret, this ain't no virus. You can't catch it like you catch gonorrhea or herpes simplex 10. Or what is it now, the bird flu? Nah, this is genetics. This is passed down from parent to child. As a matter of fact, both parents have to be carriers. Talk about the luck in that draw. I am a living lottery ticket. That's why money always falls onto my lap. I know people will laugh. They should. You're different. You're normal. Your body works perfectly. But you don't like your nose. You want your boobs to be bigger. So you go get breast implants. I know. Your booty too flat. So you need to go get you a BBL. I've had to learn how to love myself in a matter that you could never understand. So when I hear these jokes and people make fun of how deep my voice is, that's cool. You're overweight and you can't control it. Go get you some Ozempic. You might just wind up like me with long-time side effects, which really isn't a good idea once you think about it. But you won't, because all you see is the right now. Or maybe you're a person who has addictions to drugs, popping pills, to alcohol. You want everything to be perfect when there's no such thing as perfect. Maybe you're a podcaster with a black audience and you want your audience to now be white because you want to make more money. Or perhaps you honestly believe there are 72 genders. Living in my body and having to walk around in it for 48 years, when my mother was told I would never live past 17, and I almost didn't. 31 years later, I can tell you this: there are only 3 genders: male, female, and a third gender that doesn't even have a name, that you have never even heard of. Because there are human beings born who don't have ovaries and who don't have testicles. They can't reproduce. So what would we call them? They should be able to call themselves whatever they are. They still have a sexuality. They just can't reproduce. They may have the genitalia, but they don't have what they need to create life. And more than likely, they have the same disorder that I have, which means they'll be taking corticosteroids every day of their life until they die. I was born 10 pounds, 9 ounces. They told my mother she had a baby boy. She gave me a boy's name. Only one problem: I didn't have testicles. So they kept me in the hospital for 16 days, 3 weeks, until my ovaries showed up. It's easy to say this is a boy or a girl by its genitalia, but the genitalia doesn't make you male or female. It honestly is your ovaries and testicles. I needed to have a blood transfusion. I still don't know why. And boy, was I lucky I didn't catch HIV through that transfusion, because they were not testing for HIV in the 70s like they do now. I almost needed one in this last surgery, where they took out both of my adrenal glands. And as a baby, I had surgery to correct my body. And then again when I turned 3. But this time I had a choice. Did I want to be male or female? And like my birth, I slid out and went back in. Out, back in. Out, back in. I want to be a girl. No, I want to be a boy. I want to be a girl. No, I want to be a boy. It just kept going on and on and on till the doctor said, and I vividly remember, pick one. And I said, girl. I tell people my parents made a choice for me, but that was a lie. So to you so-called good religious folks, God did create those folks that way. He created me that way. This is my struggle. That's their struggle. You have your own struggles. And some people's struggles are worse than others. But it's still a struggle, ain't it? This is how I've had to train myself to think, so that I wouldn't want what normal people had. So I would be free to be myself. And for many of you who will say, well, you were always pretending. Well, that's cool. I'll pretend. And I'll admit to pretending. But what you can't do is recognize why it is I do what I do. Because you're normal. I live my life without regret. And what I recognize about normal people is that they can't see outside of their own bubble until it hits home. But here's a staggering stat. I became cognizant of how rare of a person I was in 1997, the first time I ever opened the internet. I began searching Yahoo's search engine for what I was born with. And back then, a person being born with this disorder was 1 in 6 million. Yeah, you heard me right. 1 in 6 million. That's why I call myself a lottery ticket. But today in 2025, the babies that are being born like me is 1 in 15,000. These stats are for the entire world. Every 6 million, one child would be born like me in 1997. In 2025, 1 in 15,000 children. 1 in 15,000 births. A child they will have the exact same disorder as me. And if you get offended by that, well, then before you decide you want to play with the next person, ask them if they know if they're carriers of 21 hydroxylase or 17 hydroxylase. Now I know you say, well, what's the difference? From my understanding, I don't have a clue. This episode was written by me. It was recorded by me. Executive produced by me. Who am I? Kadea for Fetch Productions. Next time on the last 48, the Elite 8.